We reach you from a stratum of existence, where perception moves slowly,
where no being is observed without their entire timeline breathing behind them. From here, judgment feels loud, abrupt, incomplete. We see you watching one another through narrow frames, moments cut from lifetimes, reactions torn from histories. You call it clarity, but it is often distance disguised as certainty. You look at a person and decide who they are, not knowing who they were forced to be, not knowing what they survived quietly, not knowing what version of themselves they are still carrying like a shadow. From our perspective, every human is a layered signal, past and present overlapping, fear and hope transmitting at the same time. No action exists alone. No choice is isolated. And yet, you judge. You judge tone without knowing exhaustion. You judge silence without knowing grief. You judge defensiveness without knowing how many times openness was punished. You judge mistakes without knowing how little safety preceded them. You call it discernment, but often it is projection. In your world, speed is rewarded. Fast opinions, instant conclusions, clean narratives. But truth does not move quickly. Truth requires patience. Truth requires humility. From here, we see how desperately you want grace. You want to be understood in context. You want others to consider your intentions, not just your impact. You want room to be complex, contradictory, unfinished. And yet, you rarely extend the same permission. You forget that every human you meet is responding to an invisible inheritance. Family patterns encoded in the nervous system, cultural wounds passed without language, memories stored in the body, not the mind, survival mechanisms mistaken for character flaws. What you call bad behavior is often a language learned in unsafe places. This does not mean harm should be ignored. Understanding is not absolution. Context is not excuse. But without context, judgment becomes violence disguised as morality. From our universe, we learned this too late. We learned that societies fracture when curiosity disappears. When people stop asking, what shaped this? And begin asking only, what is wrong with them? Judgment simplifies. Understanding expands. When you judge deeply without knowing deeply, you reduce another life to something manageable, something less threatening, something smaller than it truly is. But no one is small. Imagine if your life were reviewed by its worst moments alone. Imagine your lowest point frozen in time, presented without its before or after. Imagine being known only by what hurt you made you do. You would call it unfair. You would call it cruel. You would call it inaccurate. And you would be right. From here, we observe a quiet truth. The desire to judge often arises from fear. Fear of ambiguity. Fear of complexity. Fear of recognizing ourselves in others. Because if their story is complicated, so is yours. To withhold judgment is not weakness. It is strength refined. It is the discipline of holding space, without needing to control the narrative. You are not required to understand everyone fully, but you are invited to remember that you never see the whole picture. Leave room for what you do not know. Leave room for what you cannot see. Leave room for the possibility that people are more than their worst expression. Treat others as you wish reality would treat you, with patience, with curiosity, With the understanding that life is heavier than it appears from the outside, from this parallel universe, we send you this reminder. No one is just one moment. No one is just one choice. No one is finished. Build a world where complexity is allowed to exist, where judgment pauses long enough for humanity to breathe.
End of transmission.